Most people think cryptid sightings are blurry photos taken by drunk guys in the woods, and honestly, most of them are. But there are a handful of encounters so strange and so well documented that even hardcore skeptics have to pause. Today I'm breaking down the strangest cryptid encounters ever reported, starting with the one piece of evidence that's haunted researchers for nearly 6 decades: the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot sighting, October 20th, 1967. Bluff Creek, Northern California. Roger Patterson and Robert Gimlin captured 60 seconds of 16mm color footage showing a creature roughly 7 to 8 feet tall, estimated between 600 and 900 pounds, casually strolling through the forest like it had somewhere to be. Here's why this footage refuses to die. The creature's gait shows a heel strike to toe off walking pattern that biomechanists have argued is essentially impossible to replicate in a costume. You can see muscle ripple across the shoulders and hips, detail that would have required prosthetic technology that flat out didn't exist in 1967. Anthropologist John Napier studied the footage and concluded the gait was neither man nor ape, not a comforting phrase. But here's where it gets complicated. Patterson was desperate for money, and skeptics have pointed out that costume maker John Chambers was allegedly contacted before the trip, which is, not ideal for credibility. The original film's chain of custody is a mess, and no forensic analysis has ever been conclusively peer-reviewed. So after 57 years, nobody can prove it's real. Nobody can prove it's fake. The footage just sits there, daring you to explain it. But if you think a big hairy biped is strange, wait until you hear about the 4-foot-tall frogman that 2 police officers reported seeing in Ohio. The Loveland frogman. Most cryptid sightings come from hikers, campers, or some guy who swears he saw something after a long night. This one came from 2 police officers on duty, filing official reports. On March 3rd, 1972, Loveland, Ohio officer Ray Shockey was driving near a drainage ditch when he spotted something crouched on the road. Not a dog, not a deer, a humanoid frog, roughly 3 to 4 feet tall, with gray, leathery skin that was wet and glistening under his headlights. It had bulbous eyes, a lipless mouth that stretched across the entire width of its head, and forearms held parallel to the ground like it was about to deliver a tiny karate chop, which is, not ideal. About 2 weeks later, Officer Mark Matthews filed his own report. Same creature, same area, same description, down to the glistening reptilian skin and that horrible, wide mouth. Neither officer had compared notes beforehand. The thing reportedly scrambled over a guardrail and down an embankment toward the Little Miami River with enough speed and agility that 2 armed cops decided chasing it wasn't worth the paperwork. The story spread fast. An entire town was talking about a frogman near the river, and nobody could explain it. Here's the kicker though. Matthews later recanted, saying the whole thing was likely an escaped iguana spotted in bad lighting. A 3 to 4 foot tall bipedal guardrail climbing iguana with a mouth like a muppet. Sure, that clears everything up. But if you think a frog climbing a guardrail in Ohio is strange, wait until you hear about the 7-foot tall winged creature that terrorized an entire West Virginia town for over a year. The Point Pleasant Mothman. Between November 1966 and December 1967, over 100 people in Point Pleasant, West Virginia reported seeing the same thing. A 7-foot tall winged creature with glowing red eyes. Not a handful of reports, not a dozen, over 100. The first formal sighting came from 2 young couples near an abandoned TNT plant. What they described was genuinely unsettling. A humanoid torso with massive wings folded against its body like a cape. No visible head, no neck, just a broad, featureless upper body with 2 enormous red eyes set directly into the chest area, which is, not ideal, but here's where it gets worse. This thing didn't just stand there looking terrifying. Roger Scarberry and Steve Millette reported it pursuing their car at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour as they fled the TNT plant area, wings barely moving, just gliding after them like gravity was optional. Multiple independent witnesses over the following months described the same phenomenon when looking into those red eyes: total physical paralysis and an overwhelming sense of intelligent, malevolent awareness staring back at them. Not animal fear, something deliberate. The sightings continued for 13 months. Then on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour traffic, killing 46 people. The Mothman reports stopped almost immediately after. Nobody ever proved the creature caused the collapse. Nobody ever proved it didn't. But that coincidence transformed the Mothman from a regional oddity into one of America's most enduring pieces of mythology. An entire town's worth of witnesses, a year of of terror, 46 dead. That's a hard combination to dismiss. But if a flying nightmare with no head sounds bad, wait until you hear about the thing that was running people down on a back road in Wisconsin. The Bray Road Beast. In the fall of 1989, something walked upright across a rural road in Wisconsin, and it wasn't human. Residents near Bray Road outside Elkhorn started reporting a creature that sounds like it crawled straight out of a medieval folklore manuscript. 5 to 6 feet tall, covered in dark hair, massive jaws, standing on its hind legs like it had somewhere to be, essentially a werewolf, in 1989. With dozens of witnesses, and before you write this off as one farmer who had too much moonshine, over 60 documented sightings occurred between 1989 and 1992, all concentrated in the same rural stretch of Wisconsin. 60. Here's the detail that genuinely unsettles me. Multiple witnesses independently described the same thing. The creature had a shifting gait. It would run on all fours like a canine, but its musculature and posture suggested something fully capable of standing upright. So it wasn't a wolf running like a wolf. It was something switching between two modes of movement, like it was choosing which one to use. That's not an animal. That's a decision maker. But it gets worse. Reports included claw marks gouged into vehicle doors, a deep guttural growl that witnesses said they could physically feel vibrating in their chest, and one motorist claimed the creature pursued their car at 35 miles per hour on foot. Hey, could you pull over? I'd like to eat you. Cool. That's also a thing that happened. Local journalist Linda Godfrey compiled detailed witness statements and essentially built the case file on this thing from scratch, sparking broader interest in unknown canids across North America. 60 witnesses across 3 years, all describing the same creature, all in the same area, but at least the Bray Road Beast stayed on land. The next thing on this list washed up from the ocean, and nobody has been able to identify it since 1953. The Canvey Island Monster. Most cryptid encounters give you eyewitness testimony and maybe a blurry photo if you're lucky. This one gave scientists an actual body, and they still managed to bungle it. In November 1954, a carcass washed ashore on Canvey Island in Essex, England. The thing was about 2.5 feet long, with a bulbous body, protruding eyes, and a central ridge running down its back like some kind of discount dinosaur. Its mouth was lined with rows of small uniform teeth, and it had 2 well-defined hind legs ending in concave horseshoe-shaped feet. No forelimbs at all. Just a creature that looked like it was built to walk on 2 legs and then decided the ocean was a better career path. Here's where it gets weird. Zoologists actually examined, measured, and photographed the specimen, documented everything they could, and then they cremated it. Not preserved it, not archived it, cremated it. Science had a genuinely unidentifiable carcass in its hands, and the official response was to set it on fire, which is, not ideal. Then roughly a year later, in August 1955, a second one washed up. Same island, same general description, same baffling outcome. Nobody preserved that one properly either. So science had 2 chances, 2 actual physical specimens of something genuinely unidentifiable, and both times the response was basically, that's odd, followed by absolutely nothing useful. The leading theories ranged from unknown deep sea species to radiation mutations caused by North Atlantic atomic testing, which is the most 1950s explanation imaginable. We don't know what it is, so it's probably the nukes. The originals are gone forever. No samples, no tissue, no bones, just grainy photos of a bloated mystery fish with legs that science fumbled like a greased football. But if you think a dead creature on a beach is unsettling, wait until you hear about the thing that showed up alive, hovering and smelling like sulfur in rural West Virginia. The Flatwoods Monster Encounter. Most cryptid encounters give you one weird thing to process: a shape in the woods, a sound you can't explain. The Flatwoods Monster decided to assault every single sense at once and then leave. On September 12th, 1952, 6 children and a local teenager in Flatwoods, West Virginia, stumbled onto something near a barn that none of them could have invented. A 10-foot tall entity with a spade-shaped head, glowing green or yellow eyes, and a metallic gray body. Already strange enough, right? But here's the thing, it wasn't standing on the ground. The creature hovered several inches above the surface, moving in this weightless, floating drift that looked like gravity had simply forgotten about it. And then there was the smell. Every single witness independently described an overwhelming sulfurous stench, like sulfur, hot metal, and something burning all mixed together. It was so intense that one of the witnesses allegedly vomited on the spot, which is, not ideal when you're also staring at a floating alien nightmare. The encounter lasted roughly 10 minutes before the creature reportedly ascended straight up into the sky. Not flew away, not ran, went vertical. This isn't cryptid behavior. This is UFO territory with a face attached to it. Kathleen May became the primary spokesperson for the group and provided remarkably consistent testimony across multiple retellings over the years. Investigators who arrived afterward found unexplained scorch marks in the field where the encounter took place, and then nobody ever conclusively analyzed them. They just found mysterious burn marks in the exact spot where a glowing, hovering creature had been, and apparently said, yeah, that's fine, let's move on. Local newspapers ran with the story and created genuine regional panic across West Virginia. The physical evidence was right there, the witnesses were consistent, and the follow-through was zero. But if you think a floating monster in rural West Virginia is unsettling, wait until you hear about the thing that showed up in a quiet Massachusetts suburb and looked like it crawled out of a completely different dimension. The Dover Demon sightings. Most cryptids have long histories, decades of sightings, generations of folklore, so entire communities built around the legend. The Dover Demon has exactly 2 nights. On April 21st and 22nd, 1977, 3 separate teenagers in Dover, Massachusetts each reported seeing the same impossible thing across 3 independent incidents in a span of roughly 26 hours. A creature roughly 3 to 4 feet tall, moving on all fours with a contorted fluid gait that looked wrong in a way nobody could fully articulate. It had an oversized, bulbous head, smooth gray skin, long, spindly limbs ending in finger-like digits, and a body that seemed to glow. The skin had this luminous, almost translucent quality, like something you'd expect to see at the bottom of an ocean trench, not crawling across a suburban road in Massachusetts. Witness Bill Bartlett provided a detailed drawing that became one of the most iconic images in cryptid history. He also noted something that makes the whole thing 10 times creepier. It made absolutely no sound. Zero. Despite moving its limbs in this bizarre, almost impossible configuration, there was nothing. No breathing, no footsteps, no rustling, just silence and a thing that shouldn't exist staring back at you. Here's where it gets weird. The head-to-body ratio and the way the limbs moved were described by every witness as anatomically impossible for any known animal on Earth. This wasn't someone misidentifying a deer or a raccoon. Whatever this was didn't match anything in the biological catalog. And then, after April 22nd, it was gone forever. No follow-up sightings, no additional reports. Not in 1978, not in 1990, not ever. The Dover Demon appeared for 2 nights, was seen by multiple independent teenagers, and then vanished from existence like it was never there at all. Less like an undiscovered animal and more like something that briefly slipped through from somewhere else, took a look around, and left. But if the Dover Demon unsettles you with its silence and stillness, the next one is the opposite, because the Enfield Horror didn't just show up, it attacked. The Enfield Horror Incident. Most cryptid encounters sound like animals. Weird animals, sure, but animals. The Enfield Horror sounds like someone built a nightmare in a lab and forgot to program it correctly. Starting on April 25th, 1973, residents of Enfield, Illinois began reporting encounters with a creature that defies every comfortable category your brain wants to put it in. It stood about 3 to 4 feet tall, gray-skinned, with stubby little arms, spindly legs, and claws. That alone is unsettling enough, but the way it moved is what really gets people. Witnesses described its locomotion as insectoid, erratic, twitchy, with joints that appeared to bend in directions joints shouldn't bend, like watching a spider wearing a costume of something vaguely humanoid. And it could reportedly leap 15 feet straight up from a standing position. No wind up, no crouch, just vertical launch, which is, not ideal when it's standing on your porch, because that's exactly what happened to Henry McDaniel. The creature came to his home and started clawing at his door and siding with enough force to leave visible damage, not scratching, clawing, with intent. McDaniel grabbed a gun, because this is Illinois and that's what you do, and fired at the thing. It reportedly leaped away into the darkness like a grasshopper on methamphetamine. But here's the detail that pushes this into genuinely uncanny territory. The sound it made. Witnesses described a hissing screech, like a wildcat being fed through a paper shredder. A vocalization that didn't match anything people could confidently pin to a known species. Something that moves like a bug, shrieks like a demon, and can clear a single-story rooftop in one jump. That doesn't fit any known species. It doesn't even fit most fictional ones. And then, within weeks, the sightings just stopped. No photographs ever surfaced. The only physical evidence left behind were strange 6-toed tracks in the dirt and the damage to McDaniel's home. A handful of witnesses, a few footprints, each and absolutely nothing conclusive. But if you think a small clawed creature harassing one man's front door is intense, wait until an entire family spends a full evening under siege from something even worse. The Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins Raid. Most cryptid encounters last seconds, maybe a minute if you're unlucky. The Sutton family endured a nearly 4-hour home invasion by bulletproof creatures soldiers that apparently understood military tactics, and nobody has ever adequately explained what happened that night. August 21st, 1955, the Sutton farmhouse near Kelly and Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Starting around 7 p.m., the family reported small humanoid beings appearing around their property. The descriptions were consistent and specific: 3 to 4 feet tall, pointed ears, glowing yellow eyes, claw-like hands, and silvery skin that seemed to shimmer. Over the course of the night, the family counted more than 13 separate entities. Here's where it stops being a weird sighting and starts being a horror movie. The family opened fire multiple times. Shotguns, rifles, everything they had. The beings showed zero reaction to being shot. No flinching, no retreating, no dropping, nothing. The bullets apparently did absolutely nothing, which is, not ideal when you're trying to defend your home. But the gunfire resistance isn't even the most disturbing part. The creatures demonstrated what can only be described as tactical intelligence. They appeared at windows, crawled onto the roof, and actively avoided being cornered. They coordinated their movements. These weren't mindless animals bumbling around a farmhouse. They were strategic. Hey Frank, you take the window, I'll get the roof. And Gary, just stand there and be terrifying. That kind of energy. The siege lasted until roughly 11 p.m. when the family finally fled to the Hopkinsville police. Around 20 law enforcement personnel descended on the property afterward, including city police, state troopers, deputy sheriffs, and military police. They found evidence of extensive gunfire, bullet holes everywhere. But here's the kicker: zero bodies, zero blood, zero physical evidence that anything had been hit, despite hours of shooting at close range. Either this family collectively hallucinated the same incredibly specific nightmare for nearly 4 straight hours, or something showed up that night that bullets couldn't stop. I don't love either option, but if bulletproof goblins with battle tactics sound unsettling, wait until you see something even stranger, because the next one was caught on camera: the Fresno Nightcrawler. Everything else on this list has a framework. Bigfoot is a primate. The Mothman is a harbinger. The goblins are aliens. The Frogman is, well, a frogman. But the Fresno Nightcrawler is literally just a pair of legs walking down a street. That's it. No body, no head, no arms, just legs. And somehow that's the most unsettling thing we've covered today. In 2007, a residential security camera in Fresno, California picked up something moving across an empty street in the middle of the night. The figure was roughly 2 to 3 feet tall, completely white, and walked upright with the smoothest gait you've ever seen. No visible head, no torso worth mentioning. The entire thing looked like a bedsheet draped over a pair of stilts, gliding across the pavement with zero joint articulation. Its legs didn't bend, they just moved, like a single fluid tube sliding forward one step at a time, and then it happened again. In 2011, separate footage surfaced from Yosemite National Park showing what appeared to be the same type of creature. Same impossibly smooth move, same featureless body. A completely different location years later with no connection to the original video. Here's the thing: if this is a hoax, it's the worst looking hoax in cryptid history. And that's exactly what makes it so hard to dismiss. A sophisticated faker would build something impressive, something with detail, with features, with effort, but this thing looks like a kindergartner drew it. 2 lines in a circle, done. The paradox is genuinely maddening, because why would someone stage footage in 2 separate locations, years apart, and make the creature so aggressively simple? It's like forging a Picasso and deliberately making it look like a stick figure, which, to be fair, some Picassos already do. The footage went massively viral and became one of the defining images of internet cryptidology, but no physical evidence ever surfaced. No footprints, no biological material, no corroborating reports from local authorities. Nothing. And that's what makes this the strangest entry on the entire list. Not because it's the scariest or the most documented, but because it defies categorization entirely. It's not an animal, it's not an alien, it's not folklore, it's a walking pair of pants with no one inside them, and nobody has ever been able to explain what it's supposed to be. I don't know what to tell you. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.